Sharia's anger flared immediately. He clenched his fists and, for a brief moment, almost struck her. But then, a different idea crossed his mind. Instead of confronting her verbally, he grabbed Tamina by the arm and pulled her onto the bed. His actions became bold, and to his shock, Tamina didn't resist. Instead, she smirked and said, "Well, finally. Go on. You should have done this a long time ago." Hello, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into another shocking and unsettling real-life incident that will leave you speechless. This time, the story comes from Bhagalpur, a region in Bihar, India. It's a unique and controversial case involving an aunt who, feeling lonely due to her husband's struggles with diabetes, turned to someone unexpected, her own nephew, to fill the void. What's the full story behind this unusual and troubling situation? Stick around as we uncover all the details and take a closer look. Before we dive into the story, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with your friends. The more, the merrier. Now, let's get started. Our story begins with a woman named Tamina, born in 1966 in Begusarai, India. Tamina was a teacher, deeply involved in social work, and came from a well-off family that owned several rental properties in the suburbs. After the birth of her youngest daughter, Tamina moved to the city of Bhagalpur. There, she became the principal of a local educational foundation. Her husband, Morshed, worked as a civil servant in a regional health department. His job kept him busy, often traveling to remote areas, which meant he was rarely home. In 2013, their eldest son left for college in Patna to study independently, leaving their daughter Munira, who was in the second grade of secondary school at the time, to stay with her parents. Tamina was known for being a strict, disciplined, and no-nonsense mother. Some of her relatives even joked that she dominated her marriage. Her husband, however, was a patient and easygoing man. Despite her fiery nature and occasional nagging, Morshed managed to maintain his calm, and their household stayed steady. Fast forward to 2016, one of Tamina's sisters in Begusarai reached out to her for help. The sister's son, Shariar, had been out of school for 2 years and was struggling to find work. At 21, Shariar decided to visit his aunt in Bhagalpur, hoping she could provide him with a place to stay while he searched for jobs. Tamina, being a strong advocate for education, had other plans. She insisted Shariar take a college entrance exam instead of searching for work. She even promised to cover all his tuition and living expenses if he passed. Shariar happily agreed, and by the end of 2016, he had secured admission to a university in Bhagalpur. He moved in with Tamina, who took care of all his needs. That same year, Munira graduated high school and started her college journey too, though she enrolled at a different university, pursuing business and management in Bhagalpur. Shariar and his cousin had a pretty close relationship. They often studied together, and he was more like an older brother to her, being 3 years older. Shariar seemed genuinely happy to be in college, way more than anyone expected. Coming from a poor family, he never dreamed of being a university student. His dad worked as a farm laborer, and his mom earned a living washing clothes for neighbors. Money was always tight, so this opportunity felt like a dream come true for him. Now, let's fast forward a bit. Around this time, Mr. Morshed was diagnosed with diabetes. Luckily, it was caught early, so he could still work and stay active, though he had to take regular medication and wasn't as strong as he used to be. Back to Shariar. He was thriving in college. He worked hard, did well in his classes, and always helped around the house. Whatever his aunt, Tamina, asked him to do, he'd do it without hesitation. But as his second year in college rolled around, things started to shift. Tamina's attitude toward him changed. She became more irritable, not just with Shariar, but with her husband too. One thing that really puzzled her was Shariar's complete lack of interest in dating. When she brought it up, Shariar brushed it off, saying he wanted to focus on his studies. He was only in his 3rd semester and had no time for a girlfriend. He insisted that graduating quickly and finding a job was his priority. He wanted to help his struggling family back in the village. His dad wasn't in great health, so romance could wait. But Tamina wasn't buying it. She thought it was odd that Sharia, at 24 years old, had never mentioned a girl he liked. After all, she had been married by 23. Surely, he must have met someone by now, right? She kept pressing him, asking if he was secretly seeing someone. Sharia, though, stuck to his story. He just hadn't met anyone suitable yet. Tamina couldn't let it go. She'd rant about how important it was to date while you're young. Life isn't just about college, she'd say. Even middle school kids are out there dating. But what really set her over the edge was when Sharia's college buddy Bashir started coming over more often. They'd hang out in Sharia's room, laughing and talking late into the night. This made Tamina's imagination run wild. She even brought it up with her daughter, Munira. Munira just laughed it off. "Mom, it's no big deal. Bashir's just his college friend," she said. "What do you expect him to do? Bring a girl home to hang out? Let her stay over? College is exhausting. It's nice to have a buddy to help with homework and relax with. I do the same thing with my friends. It's totally normal. You're overthinking this." But Tamina couldn't shake her suspicions. Bashir's visits, Sharia's focus on school, his lack of interest in dating, it all felt off to her. Was she just overthinking, or was there something more going on? One day in November 2016, everything came to a head. Tamina was furious when she spotted her nephew Sharia at a bookstore near the market, with another guy. When he got home, she didn't hold back. "You're always with a guy," she snapped. "You study with guys, hang out with guys, even go to the bookstore with them. What's wrong with you? Don't you have any female friends? No wonder you don't have a girlfriend. You're always sticking to men. This isn't normal." Her words hit Sharia like a ton of bricks. He never expected his aunt to think like that. Feeling cornered, he tried to explain himself in front of both his aunt and uncle. "I'm just focusing on my studies," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. "I hang out with friends who help me with school. Why don't I date? Because I know you're the one paying for everything. My education, my daily expenses. I need to focus so I can graduate quickly and not waste your kindness. Relationships can be messy, and I've seen my friends fight with their girlfriends, get distracted, and ruin their grades. I don't want that." Sharia paused, then added, "And besides, have you ever seen me act weird with my friends? No, right?" But Tamina wasn't backing down. "You're over 23. How long are you planning to wait before you start dating?" she fired back. Sharia sighed. "Exactly. I'm already 23. That's why I want to graduate as soon as possible so my younger siblings can get their turn to go to school." Tamina kept going, saying things like, "Boys should date. You should be a little wild sometimes." Eventually, Mr. Morshed had to step in to break up the argument. Only then did Tamina stomp off to her room, still grumbling under her breath. This whole incident really stuck with Sharia. Afterward, he told Bashir to stop coming over for a while to avoid more drama. He even considered getting a girlfriend just to shut his aunt up. The problem? He couldn't find anyone he really liked. Finally, he thought, forget it. Looks don't even matter anymore. If she's a girl and wants to date me, that's good enough. Not long after, Sharia met a girl who showed interest in him. He didn't hesitate. This is it, he thought. I'll take her to my aunt and show her. A week later, he brought the girl, Samira, to the house and introduced her to Tamina as his girlfriend. Sharia told her they'd been dating for a month after knowing each other for over a year. Tamina's mood shifted instantly. She was thrilled. She asked Samira, who was 21 at the time, all sorts of questions and seemed genuinely happy. After that, Samira often dropped by to visit Tamina, even if it was just for a quick chat. Now, every Sunday night, Sharia would go out, saying he was visiting Samira. By February 2017, he asked for permission again one evening around 7 p.m. to see her. This time, both Tamina and Morshed told him to bring her over more often, not just on weeknights. Sharia agreed, saying he'd bring her by soon. Sharia's peace didn't last long. After getting a girlfriend and going out regularly, his aunt's attitude began to change. She became snappy and irritable, constantly finding reasons to scold him. "Boys are supposed to help out at home," she would say. "Instead, you're always out with your girlfriend. What's the point of paying for your expensive tuition if you're just wasting time? It's a loss for everyone." Her words left Sharia confused. Back when he didn't have a girlfriend, his aunt insisted he needed to balance college with a social life. But now that he was dating, she made it sound like it was the worst decision he could have made. The tension in the house kept building, and even when Sharia's uncle tried to defend him, he too became the target of her frustration. The stress took a toll on Uncle Morshed's health, and he eventually fell ill and had to be rushed to the hospital. While his uncle was undergoing treatment, Sharia started spending less time at home. He felt trapped, always seen as the one at fault in his aunt's eyes. Feeling disappointed and unsupported, he tried to find a part-time job to fund his studies independently, but his efforts didn't lead anywhere. Occasionally, he visited his uncle at the hospital, but the visits were brief. Then, one evening in early February 2017, Sharia came home after college and ran into his aunt. She immediately started nagging him again. He wanted to argue, especially when he realized his cousin Munira wasn't there because she was at the hospital with Uncle Morshed. But Sharia held back, knowing that if he upset his aunt further, she might refuse to pay for his tuition. And if that happened, he would have to drop out of college, a thought he couldn't bear. It was around 10 p.m. when Tamina walked into Sharia's room, her tone teasing as she said, "Tomorrow, why don't you take me to that girl's house, Samira, right? I want to ask her parents something. Is she really going to college, or is she just going out every day? They probably already know you visit her all the time." Sharia's anger flared immediately. He clenched his fists and, for a brief moment, almost struck her. But then, a different idea crossed his mind. Instead of confronting her verbally, he grabbed Tamina by the arm and pulled her onto the bed. His actions became bold, and to his shock, Tamina didn't resist. Instead, she smirked and said, "Well, finally. Go on. You should have done this a long time ago." It seemed as if Tamina had been waiting for this moment. Lost in the tension of the moment, neither of them noticed that Munira, Tamina's daughter, had just returned home. Using her keys, she quietly entered the house and walked toward Sharia's room, only to stop in her tracks at the doorway. The scene she stumbled upon left her frozen. There, in plain sight, were her mother and her cousin tangled together. Tears welled up in Munira's eyes as she silently backed away, her presence unnoticed by the two in the room. Shaking with disbelief and hurt, she turned and left the house, heading straight back to the hospital where her father was still recovering. It was early in the morning, around 7 a.m. in February 2017. After hearing his daughter's story and seeing Munira finally fall asleep on the sofa in the hospital ward, Mr. Morshed quietly slipped out. He hailed a taxi, made his way back to his house, and used his son Sharia's spare key to get in. Once inside, he found his wife, Tamina, sleeping in Sharia's room. She was fully dressed, holding on to Sharia. Something in him snapped. Without a word, the 53-year-old walked straight to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and returned with trembling hands. At that moment, Tamina woke up, startled. She quickly tried to explain, saying she had fallen asleep in Sharia's room because they had been talking late into the night. But Morshed wasn't buying it. Fueled by rage and humiliation, he grabbed her hair and yelled at her, accusing her of betrayal. He was convinced her behavior stemmed from his inability to provide for her, something he attributed to his own failing health. But Sharia, his own nephew, it was too much. Tamina fought back, biting Morshed's hand and shouting in frustration. She screamed that she turned to Sharia because Morshed hadn't fulfilled her needs since his health declined due to diabetes. "You're not the man you used to be," she spat. Chaos ensued. Their argument turned into a violent struggle that spilled into the kitchen. The commotion was loud enough to wake Sharia, who rushed in to find a horrific scene, his aunt lying on the floor, bleeding from several wounds. Panicked, Morshed barked at Sharia to call the police and an ambulance. But by the time help arrived, it was too late. Tamina, 51, had succumbed to her injuries. At the trial, Morshed's account revealed years of pent-up resentment. He described enduring constant humiliation and control in his marriage. "Instead of caring for me during my illness," he told investigators, "she insulted me, mocked my condition, and belittled me as a man." Tamina had repeatedly accused him of infidelity without evidence and even showed up at his office to berate him publicly. Once, she physically assaulted one of his female co-workers simply because their desks were close together. The co-worker, understandably shaken, eventually requested a transfer. For decades, Morshed swallowed his pride and endured Tamina's outbursts, but the events leading up to that morning had pushed him over the edge. Discovering her in Sharia's room, especially after their daughter had witnessed such disgraceful behavior, was the final straw. Sharia admitted her mistake and apologized to both her uncle and cousin. Munaira, her sister, was also there, visibly upset and angry. She scolded Sharia, saying she should have ignored their mother's constant nagging instead of getting caught up in such a destructive relationship. Sharia explained that it was Tamina who initiated things, emotionally pressuring him, and he had made a terrible mistake by giving in. Tearfully, he asked to be punished for his role in causing his uncle to commit such a tragic act. This argument became the cornerstone of Mr. Morshed's defense. His lawyer argued that the true guilty party was Sharia, who had betrayed his family and set events in motion. Mr. Morshed, they claimed, was not a cold-blooded murderer but a victim of unbearable betrayal. In September 2017, the court reached its verdict. Mr. Morshed was found guilty of taking Tamina's life and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Sharia, then 24, was charged under indecency laws and given a sentence of 15 months in prison. This decision stirred controversy among legal observers, many of whom felt Sharia's punishment was too severe. They argued that the court had failed to consider mitigating factors, such as Sharia's claim that Tamina had coerced him by exploiting his need for college money to secure his future. Testimonies from Sharia's friends supported the idea that he had been cornered by his aunt's manipulation. Yet, despite this, the judge stood firm, leaving many to question the fairness of the ruling. What lessons can we learn from this story?